And without further ado, I would like to introduce someone who has meant the world to me personally, but she has also, and I think this is most significant, she has meant the world to people all over the world. People who will never have an opportunity to meet and know her have been influenced by her life's work. Colleagues, the Vice-Chancellor Emerita, Adelaide L. Sanford.
Thank you so much, Dr. Young. You've been more than generous in your words and thoughts, and I am overwhelmingly proud of you and Renee and of the Board of Regents, because I see growth. You cannot build a brave new world if the builders don't grow. These children are builders of that brave new world. And you have prepared a path for them by recognizing the spirit of their being, of their humanity, giving them the courage to strive beyond the limits of their existence, to never let their hopes depend upon the conditions in which they exist at any time, but to always have a vision that exceeds the reality of the present, and never to dishonor our ancestors by not remembering the genetic agony that we have suffered over the years, from the time of the Scottsboro Boys to Emmett Till, all of the names that we can list until it becomes genetic agony. And it is for our young people who have achieved this recognition today. We are in gratitude to you for the example that you have set for other young people. But even more important than that is the fact that this Board of Regents today has raised an issue that's at the heart of the matter. The issue of Mr. Floyd, the issue of Emmett Till, the issue of police brutality. Is an educational issue. We have not educated for justice. We have been involved in developing curriculum, standards, criteria for all of the professionals that touch the lives of our children, whether it's medical, whether it's education in a formal sense of schooling, whether it's psychology, whether it's law, whatever field. But the field that we have not touched is the field of criminal justice. Education for justice has depended upon pushing diversity, very important. It has depended upon hoping that our children will have some sense of who they are. So those who are the descendants of enslaved people find themselves with only a slave name and no language, no description of what their past was, when ancient Africa ruled and taught and nurtured, have no recognition of that. So they become whatever someone tells them they are. And while we have been able to provide some remnants of truth in education, it has been with enormous effort, and it has not been widespread. But we have not touched the issue of education for justice. If you look back at the lives of any of the police who have been involved in brutality, I would ask you, look at their educational experience. What did they learn about people who have been set aside long years of lost, last, and lonely? What did they learn about the strength of the African continent? What did they learn about the theft of land and bodies and people? What did they learn about the struggle for civil rights? What did they learn about who they were? Because while you are describing in pejorative terms, disadvantaged, culturally deprived, at risk, endangered species, those are not inspirational terms. But at the same time that you do that, you are elevating the status of the European who is making that description. So while you're calling some people underserved, you don't talk about those who are overserved. You talk about the disadvantaged, but you don't talk about those that are advantaged. But you put those advantaged people in a strategic position in terms of the disadvantage, so that there is no educational policy for people who are the first respondents when there is a tragedy. If you've known nothing but that you are special and entitled, and that you have made all of the accomplishments, all the music, all the art, all the drama, all the science in the world has come out of Europe, and then you put them in a position with the most vulnerable people when they have no background to understand what it is that they see or feel or hear. They're not playing golf with these people. They are not going on cruises with them. They're not even sitting in college classes beside them. The only experience they have with them is when there is a perilous moment, a death, a beating, an accident, a demonstration, that these people who have not been educated for justice, that the Board of Regents in every state which has authority over curriculum and over the performance of people who work with people who are not like them, but not the police. So I listened very carefully to what the Vice-Chancellor described in terms of what must be done. But you are authorized as members of the Board of Regents by the Constitution to be responsible for education. Are we saying that education for justice is not a part of the curriculum? Yes, that's what we're saying. We're saying that we don't touch what police people are taught. We don't touch how they are socialized to react. How when they are in strife, their instinct is not cultural, it's to preserve themselves. They feel threatened. They thought a wallet was a gun. They thought that a person who's running away from them is a threat to them. That's their feeling. It has nothing to do with their preparation as a human being. So while today, in all acknowledgement of the brilliance of my children, those from last year, those 4 from this year, and their parents and surrogates, those who will come on in future years, you, the Board of Regents, are responsible that those with whom they will come in contact with some knowledge of who they are. Not just the history of Europe, global history, African history, African American history. It has to be required that those people who are dealing with injustice in the criminal justice system are required to have some Regents-dominated curriculum reform that will put the education of people who are in the front line of protection. Who will these children call if something happens in their lives, in their family, in their community? They will call the police. But can they feel comfortable in knowing that these police will come to them with a feeling of their humanity and their worth? My son had his chokehold with the police when he said, "I can't breathe." Thanks be to the people who surrounded him. They removed the chokehold. But the person who performed that chokehold was never prosecuted. He was never retaught. He was never retrained. He was never re-socialized so that he would not do the same thing again. And it happened to Eric Garner, and it happened to George Floyd. Who will be next? If you, the Board of Regents, educators for the state, do not begin to require your mandate to be in charge of education, to take up the responsibility of developing curriculum that speaks education for justice. I put that upon your heart and mind and conscience. Silence and feeling sorry and saying, "I didn't do it, and I'm not the one, and my parents weren't slaveholders, and we didn't own the slave ships," but you benefited from the results of it. And the benefit that you have enjoyed, you have not extended to others. So I say to the 4 young people, I wish I could protect you. I wish I could love you enough that no harm could come to you. I wish I could educate you so well that no one would trample you or misunderstand, but I can't. I can only give you the assurance of your worthiness, of your brilliance, of your capacity, of the power of your ancestors, of the wealth of what you have in your mind and in your heart and in your spirit. But I say to those of you who are on the Board of Regents, it's your turn. You're the builder of the brave new worlds. You must grow. You must not exclude from your category of education of those who constitute what is called the justice system, the criminal justice system. Justice must not just be for criminals. It must be for those who provide the grounds under which the fugitive grows. I ask you, you must understand that unless education is for justice, the meaning of the other parts of the education are lessened in their importance. I give you my words of encouragement. I give you my words of gratitude. I give you my words of challenge. I give you my words of responsibility. You constitutionally are responsible for education in the state of New York, as every state is. It's a states' rights issue. Take up that right. Don't wait for it to be comfortable or popular. It never is. The popularity will come from the smile of the ancestors. Let us not dishonor them. Let us keep the memory of their greatness alive. Let us inbreed it into our children. Let's breed hope, not based on the reality of today, not the heartbreak that we feel for Floyd, or the heartbreak that we know for those who have yet to suffer. You are the Board of Regents of the University of the State of New York. I challenge you to develop an educational agenda for justice. Thank you.